When I went to go see Mickey 17, I knew I was going to like it at least a little bit because it had a lot of elements in it that I knew I really liked. It's very up my alley. It has Robert Pattinson doing a funny accent and playing more than one version of the same guy, which is really fun. I did not know going into this movie that there was going to be a cute romance, and it would be honestly one of my favorite romances in a long time. It's also a dark comedy, which is very, very up my alley. I mean, Fargo is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I really liked Parasite, and I was excited to see what Bong Joon Ho had up his sleeve next. For this video, I thought it'd be fun to watch all of Bong Joon Ho's movies. I'm not going to rank them because there's really not that many, and they're all honestly really good. They're either great or pretty good. If you like one, you're going to like the other ones. And so I wasn't surprised that I liked Mickey 17 as much as I did. Mickey 17, unsurprisingly, since it's, a sci-fi film and it's all in English, feels the most like Snowpiercer and Okja, which are both mostly in English and also sci-fi. Have sci-fi stuff. I guess Okja is more of a fantasy, I would say. It's less serious than Snowpiercer, but it feels more like it's set far into the future versus Okja, which could happen in like the next 5 years potentially, and it takes place on Earth mostly as we know it. And this does feel like a really big movie, which is great. I think it's really fun that Bong Joon Ho got to make a blank check movie basically. His winning Best Director and Best Picture. I don't think all directors get that opportunity after winning, but I'm glad that he got to because this was really fun. So, in my mind, even if it doesn't do well at the box office, which it sounds like it's not going to do amazing, I'm glad it exists and that I got to see it in IMAX, so I feel very fortunate. So basically, if you don't know, the plot of Mickey 17 is about Mickey Barnes, who becomes an expendable, is what they call these people. They're basically disposable workers that get cloned every time they die. And he gets sent on a space colony because he's running away from like a loan shark, I think. And all of these versions of Mickey 17 are played by Robert Pattinson and are all distinct-ish from each other. They're all like, especially 17 and 18, which we spend the most time with throughout the film. And this is worth seeing just for his performance. And I think that's definitely the strongest part of the whole movie, is how good Robert Pattinson is. And I've been a huge fan of his since Twilight. And so I think it's really funny that people are like, wow, he's such a great actor. And it feels like they're rediscovering him every time. And I'm like, he's been really good for a really long time. And I really think he was like uniquely qualified for this because he's good at accents. I loved the accent he picked for Mickey. It felt very perfect for the character. It feels kind of like he's unsure of himself, but a little annoying, which is just, I don't know, it's just perfect. It's kind of wild, but it really works.
Are you afraid to die? Kinda, yeah.
And he really plays all these Mickeys as like, they're not confident in themselves, but they're really sweet still. Anyway, I love the character of Mickey, and I love how Robert Pattinson plays him. And you feel so much empathy for him, especially as you see him like get killed over and over and over again, sometimes intentionally by the science team, and sometimes unintentionally. Sometimes it just happens on accident. And it seems like he has no real like resentment for this. Like he seems more annoyed that he has to do this. Like he recognizes that this is just what it is. And there's never a point where he's like, oh, I hate these guys. But he's just kind of like resigned to the fact that this is his reality, basically, which I find really relatable. I really loved him. And it's really impressive, too, because for the majority of the movie, he's playing two versions of the same guy. And they feel distinct enough that it's not hard to tell who's who. And I think part of that is the script writing that Bong Joon Ho does, which is crazy because he's writing in English, which is not his first language. I'm not sure how that worked. I did learn working on this script that apparently everything was storyboarded beforehand, which I think would help. And, Ridley Scott does that. So, I'm not to say that that's the way you have to direct something, but I can't, if I were a director and as someone who has directed stuff before, I can't imagine going into a big project like this and not having storyboarded at least some of it. Anyway, and it sounds like Robert Pattinson also gave some input on some of the humor, which makes sense because I was like, some of this, I'm like, I don't know how this would translate to like a Korean audience and how they got here. So I think that's really fun that they were able to do that. And I don't know. I don't know enough about Korean humor to know what would translate and what wouldn't. But I just think that's fun. Anyway, I want to go back to the acting because that's really a huge part of why this movie is so fun for me. Naomi Ackie was not in the trailer enough for me to know how incredible she is in this because I just saw her like in brief glimpses. They obviously focused on Robert Pattinson because he's a huge part of it. Obviously, he's the star. But I loved her performance here. And I haven't really seen her in anything else other than her like brief part in Rise of Skywalker. That does not do her justice at all. So I didn't know that she was amazing, and she really was another huge part of why I like this movie so much. This might be one of my new favorite couples in cinema, up there with like Marge and Norm from Fargo, who I adore. These are it's definitely a different flavor, but they really just like adore each other and love each other. And I love how she instantly is like accepting of every version of Mickey, even though they're all a little bit different, and they make a point of that in the movie that like, yeah, one time I was like more angry or whatever, and she just loves him anyway, and I think that's so cute. And he loves her. That's like his number one characteristic is he just like adores her. And I think that's really cute. And honestly, I would watch more of them just being a cute couple if they ever made a sequel. I don't think they will, but I would watch that in a heartbeat. And like, she's not only fun with Mickey, but she's also a really interesting character on her own. She's, I think, a guard of some kind, like a part of the security team. So she's like tough, but also, which is a good foil to Mickey, who's just not tough at all. And she's like so fierce, but like so in love with Mickey. There's a scene that's probably one of my favorites in the whole movie, like pre kind of where the story starts, where he's dying from a virus or something. And so he's just in this like essentially human-sized test tube where they're trying to get a vaccine for something, I think. And he's just dying, and they're like, well, you know, we'll study his blood after he dies, and he's just alone in this sphere. And she sees him and she's like, someone should be in there with him. What are you doing leaving him alone? And then it cuts to her in like a full body suit, just holding him in the tube. And it's so cute. It got me emotional a little bit because I just was like, she could have just let him die like everybody else, because the scientists were kind of ignoring him at that point because they were like, well, he's more valuable to us once he's dead because we can, you know, run all these tests on his body essentially. And she just was like, no, I care about Mickey, and I want to make sure that he isn't alone when he's going through this awful, awful thing. And everybody else was just like, whatever. So anyway, I love their relationship, and they're very cute. Another performance that I really enjoyed was Mark Ruffalo's. I know his has been a bit more controversial because it does seem very similar to a specific person. And honestly, I kind of loved that because it was nice to laugh at a character like this, because I feel like I need to take the real version of this person seriously because he has like actual authority, and I don't want to make that seriousness into a joke. So it was a nice release for me because I was like, oh, I can laugh at this character because this guy's not real. You know, and obviously he's over the top and kind of crazy. He feels a lot like his performance in Poor Things, but a little less nuanced. It's more just like taking that and dialing it to 11, where it's just like so extreme and so crazy. But I don't know, it fits the movie, in my opinion. I knew we were in for a treat the second I saw his like fake teeth in the first scene that he's like in the cafeteria, I think is when we first see him like talking to everybody. And I was like, oh brother, this guy. And like it affects his performance too, right? Because the teeth are like bigger than his normal teeth, so he's kind of half smiling the whole time. And I love that he had fake teeth. It was really great. And then Toni Collette was also really fun. Her performance is a little less crazy, and I mean, I think that's good. If they were both like way up here in energy, I think that just would be too much and it would have felt weird, but they were a really fun pairing, and we really don't see them apart very much. They're really together for a lot of it, so they kind of play off each other really well. They were both just really great, perfectly casted for the roles they're in. I honestly wish they were in it more, but I get that the focus was obviously on Mickey, and they were kind of just like also there. They were driving the plot somewhat as, you know, as antagonists to Mickey and the creepers, who I also liked a lot. The creepers are like they're these alien creatures that are on the planet they end up on, and they're kind of like a mix of roly-polies plus they're like furry, and they're like as big as elephants, some of them. There's like littler ones and a bigger one. I think they're adorable, and I want one of those plushies that I keep seeing as part of like the press really bad. I think they're so cute and I want one. And I'm also a lover of just cute, fun creatures, and I think Bong Joon Ho is too, because he's got like the Okja, you know, Okja the pig and all the other pigs, and then the creature from the Host, the fish guy. I think these guys are my favorite, the creepers, mostly because they can actually like talk, so they feel more like characters, but you know, his other stuff is fun too. I'm going to get into more story spoiler stuff. So if you want to go in, I mean, I've already talked about plot points, but if you want to go in without any story spoilers, jump to here. So I'm going to be talking about the ending, and I don't want to spoil anybody if you want to go see it. The entire ending, like, sequence where they're outside and the creepers are like running around in a circle around the ship really reminded me of Nausicaa, and I don't think I'm the only one that's thought that. I've definitely seen people talking about that. And I don't mind that at all. I really loved that movie. And this is definitely a very different approach to that, because Nausicaa is very epic, and like, it seems like Nausicaa, she knew exactly what to do, and it felt she was very regal the whole time. I mean, she's a princess, so that kind of makes sense. And then Mickey's like kind of fumbling his way through the same kind of series of events, which is fitting for the movie and for his character. And I loved that they did that. I love that he does get to talk to them, and they're a mix of like terrifying but cool. And I also loved that they were bluffing about the brain exploding thing. I think that's just the fact that they can lie, I think is really interesting, because they kind of come off as this like hive mind. You know, everybody's thinking the same thing. Everybody can feel what the other ones are feeling. But the fact that they can lie makes them way more interesting to me. And I kind of wish we had like more time with them after knowing that. But like, I get that didn't really advance the plot or anything. But I just think that's an interesting point, that like these creatures that feel so foreign to us and, you know, alien, also can lie like people can. And they had to bluff and had to like calculate like, okay, so if we tell them this, will this actually get them to do what we want? Or is this just going to make things worse for us? I kind of love thinking about how the mama creeper had to like calculate this stuff, and I think that's really interesting. That's what I love too about Bong Joon Ho movies, is they give you a lot to chew on, which I really kind of love. So I'm sure as I think more about this movie, I'll have more to say about like how I understand what Bong Joon Ho is trying to say, and a lot of it's like more obvious than other things. But I love that there's just so much in there that, you know, it takes a while to kind of unpack everything. One thing that I really loved was at the very end, you know, after, like right before the credits, I love how it switches from Mickey 17, which is the title of the movie, and then it flips up and it says Mickey Barnes, which is his name and has been his name, but I just think that's such a sweet way to end it, because, you know, he's the only Mickey, And so Mickey 17 even isn't really a fitting name anymore. And, our names really are a huge part of who we are and how we communicate with each other. And, like, now that he's not seen as a test subject, he's just back to Mickey Barnes himself. And it made me cry a little bit. Like, just the flicking of the 17 to his name. I just was like, oh, he's back to just being him now. And he doesn't have to worry about dying all the time. And yeah, it's a little bit more stressful because when he dies, it's over. But he just gets to live his life. And I think Nasha even says in her speech at the end that she's like, I'm so excited to grow old with you. Which I was just like, oh, that's so cute. Yes. I know. Yeah, when she said that, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. I love that for them. And I love that they're still together and are still going to be happy. That's basically my thoughts on Mickey 17. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. It's not my favorite Bong Joon Ho movie. I mean, Parasite's like a perfect movie. You can't beat that. And Memories of Murder is also, in my opinion, basically a perfect movie. So those will not be beat, I think, ever. I am excited to see what Bong Joon Ho has up next. It sounds like he's doing an animated feature, which I'm thrilled about. I love animated movies. And I really think his directing style would lend itself well to animation. Because, I mean, barking dogs never bite. Barking dogs don't bite. The dog one, his first feature film. And that to me kind of feels like a cartoon in the way that the actors are acting and the way it's directed. So I really think that his style would really lend itself well to animation. I'm really curious to see what he does next. I know a lot of people are like disappointed that the movie's not doing very well. And I'm like, he's already busy doing his other thing. And most of his movies are financed in Korea anyway. And I can't imagine they'll ever stop doing that because he's probably, I don't know if this is true, but he's one of the more successful. I'm not going to say he's the most successful, but he's definitely more successful than other Korean directors. And so I can't imagine they'd ever be like, no, we're not going to let you make movies anymore. So I'm excited. And I feel like we're still at the point where he's pretty young in his career. He's only been making movies since his first movie came out either in the late 90s or early 2000s. So he's, got more time, I'm hoping. And this was honestly my most anticipated movie of the year, so I'm not sure where I'm going to go from here. I'm excited to see Sinners. I think that looks fun. And I'm also excited for the new Mission Impossible movie. I think that will be a fun one. I always like those. I'll see it in IMAX because why wouldn't you? That's like the best way to see it. But yeah, I'm happy our season is over and I can finally watch new stuff. Yeah, I'm excited for more stuff in 2025. I'm not really sure what's coming out this year. I feel like I've been so focused on watching stuff from last year that I don't even really know what's coming out this year. So we'll see. And thank you so much for watching. This was fun to record. I haven't made a video about one movie in forever, so it's kind of nice. It is less serious in tone than Snowpiercer. It's less